Naomi Spencer never imagined that spilling hot coffee on a stranger's chest would be the beginning of the biggest turnaround of her life, much less that this stranger harbored secrets capable of putting everyone on the ship in mortal danger. But there she was, with an empty cup in her trembling hand and her face burning, staring at the calmest grey eyes she'd ever seen in the face of a caffeine catastrophe. "Oh my God, I'm a walking disaster!" Naomi tried to dry his shirt with napkins, which only made everything worse, spreading the brown liquid over an even larger area. "I swear I don't do this on purpose. It's just that the ship rocked and—" "It's okay." His voice was deep, with an almost imperceptible accent, as if he'd lived in many places and nowhere at the same time. He gently held her wrist, stopping the frantic napkin attack. "Seriously, I've been through much worse than morning coffee." The discreet smile on his lips made Naomi's stomach tie in knots. It wasn't fair. The man was drenched in coffee and still managed to be charming. She must have turned as red as a tomato, because her mother, Martha, appeared like a hurricane of floral prints and good humor. "Naomi Rose Spencer!" Her mother approached with that "I told you to be careful" look. "Sweetie, you can't walk without looking ahead for 5 minutes. Mom, please." Naomi wanted the floor of the Ocean Aurora to open up and swallow her. There she was, on the most luxurious cruise she'd ever set foot on, achieving the incredible feat of humiliating herself in the first 30 minutes aboard. Really, it was nothing. The man extended his hand to Martha with a politeness that seemed to come from another century. "Derek Vaughan, but you can call me Derek. And you are—" "Martha, mother of this clumsy girl here." Martha shook his hand enthusiastically. "And this is Naomi, my only daughter, single, excellent cook, and—" "Mom!" Naomi wanted to die. "He doesn't need my complete resume." Derek laughed, and it was a genuine sound, not that polite laugh of rich people that Naomi had heard at corporate parties. There was something different about him. He wore expensive clothes, but without ostentation. He had a military bearing, but his eyes carried a softness that contrasted with his upright posture. It was as if he were there, and at the same time elsewhere, observing everything with an attention that bordered on vigilance. "I accept the coffee as a welcome gift," he said, taking a clean shirt from the bag he was carrying. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to change before someone thinks I survived a cappuccino attack." When he walked away, Martha nudged her daughter with her elbow. "That one's quality, Naomi. Beautiful eyes, polite, didn't yell at you. Write down his name." "Mom, for God's sake." Naomi sighed, but her eyes followed Derek until he disappeared down the corridor. "We just boarded the ship. You can't already be matchmaking." "Sweetie, opportunity doesn't ring the doorbell twice." Naomi rolled her eyes, but her heart was still racing. It wasn't just from embarrassment. There was something about that man that intrigued her. Maybe it was the way he looked around with calculated attention, as if mapping escape routes. Or maybe it was the way his eyes had fixed on her for a second longer than necessary, as if he were memorizing her face. The Ocean Aurora was a floating city of luxury. 8 floors of Italian marble, crystal chandeliers, infinity pools, and Michelin-starred restaurants. For Naomi, who grew up sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with her mother and saving every penny, it was like stepping into a movie. This Caribbean cruise from Miami to the Bahamas was the prize of a corporate sweepstakes she never imagined winning. "You deserve this, sweetie," Martha said, as if reading her thoughts. "After everything you went through with that monster Brandon, you deserve the world." Naomi swallowed hard. Brandon, the controlling fiancé who turned 3 years of her life into an emotional prison. He monitored her clothes, her friendships, her schedules. He said it was love, but it was possession. Breaking up with him had been like pulling out a thorn embedded too deep. It hurt, it bled, but it was necessary. "This is a fresh start," Naomi murmured, looking at the turquoise-blue sea through the panoramic window. "The sea is freedom, Mom. It's infinite. And you also deserve something infinite, my daughter." They spent the day exploring the ship. Naomi took 1,000 photos of the deck, the pool, the spa, even the suite's bathroom, because it was bigger than her apartment's living room. Martha made friends with half the passengers, including a group of Canadian ladies who taught her how to order wine in French. At night, during the welcome dinner in the main lounge, Naomi saw him again. Derek was sitting alone at a corner table, wearing a dark blazer and reading something on his phone. He didn't seem out of place, but he also didn't seem to belong to that world of loud laughter and clinking glasses. It was as if he were a well-dressed shadow, present but invisible. "Go talk to him." Martha pushed her daughter with her elbow. "I won't. I've humiliated myself enough for today." "Naomi, you're 29 years old, not 90. Go!" Before she could protest, a man with overly shiny black hair and a smile that took up half his face appeared on stage. "Good evening, beautiful people." He opened his arms as if to embrace the entire hall. "I'm Marco Santos, entertainment director of this wonderful ship, and I'm here to ensure you have so much fun you forget your problems on land." Marco was pure charisma. He gestured as if conducting an opera, told jokes that made even the waiters laugh, and had that rare ability to make everyone feel special. He started a question-and-answer game, pulling passengers onto the stage. "And you, beautiful lady with curly hair." Marco pointed directly at Naomi, who almost choked on her wine. "Yes, you, come here." No, Go, sweetie." Martha practically pushed Naomi out of her chair. With wobbly legs and a burning face, Naomi climbed onto the stage to applause. Marco received her with a theatrical hug. "What's your name, Cara?" "Naomi." "Naomi, what a beautiful name. And tell me, Naomi, what's the boldest thing you've ever done in your life?" Naomi thought. The boldest thing? Breaking up with Brandon, entering that sweepstakes, boarding that ship, spilling coffee on a handsome stranger. "I'm here," she said, and her voice came out firmer than expected. "This is the boldest thing, being here, on this ship, in this moment." The hall fell silent for a second, then exploded in applause. Marco placed his hand on his heart, dramatizing emotion. "Madonna, that was beautiful! Did you hear that? Being present is the greatest boldness." When Naomi returned to the table, her hands were trembling with adrenaline. Martha was beaming, but what took her breath away was noticing that Derek was looking at her. It wasn't a casual look. It was intense, as if he had seen something in her that no one else saw. Their eyes met for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours, and then he smiled. A small smile, almost imperceptible, but one that made Naomi's heart race, as if she were in free fall. In that moment, as the Ocean Aurora sailed under a starry sky through the Caribbean Sea, Naomi Spencer had no idea she had just met the man who would change her life forever, and who in a few days would save her from death. If anyone had told Naomi she would spend the next morning tripping, literally, into Derek Vaughan, she would have laughed and changed the subject. But there she was again, making a fool of herself, this time without coffee involved, but with a cleaning cart she didn't see when turning the corner of the corridor. Damn! Naomi grabbed the first solid thing she found, which by bad luck, or fate's fortune, was Derek's arm. "We need to stop meeting like this," he said with that discreet smile that was already becoming dangerously familiar. "Or I'm going to start thinking you're stalking me." I'm not. Naomi pulled away too quickly and almost tripped again. "It's just that this ship is big, but at the same time small, you know? Like a lot of people in the same space and—" "Breathe," Derek said, and there was genuine humor in his eyes. "Are you okay? Besides my dignity that was left back at yesterday's coffee, yes, I'm great." He laughed. A low, pleasant sound that did something weird in her chest, as if someone had lit a candle in there. "You know," Derek leaned in slightly, as if sharing a secret, "dignity is overrated. I've seen generals trip on carpets and politicians fall off stages. Everyone's human. You talk like you've seen the whole world." "Let's say I've traveled quite a bit," he replied, and Naomi noticed there was something evasive in the answer, as if he were measuring each word. Before she could ask more, Marco appeared like a gale of energy. "Ah, the lovebirds met again!" He opened his arms dramatically. "This is destiny, amici miei, the universe conspiring. We just bumped into each other," Naomi tried to explain, but Marco was already in presenter mode. "Perfect, because I need volunteers for the Latin dance class on deck at 2 o'clock, and you two are officially recruited." "I don't dance," Derek said quickly. "And I have 2 left feet," Naomi completed. "Exactly why you're perfect. See you at 2, Inamorati, no excuses accepted." And he left as he came, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and organized chaos. Derek looked at Naomi. Naomi looked at Derek. "Do we really need to go?" she asked. "I don't think we have a choice. That man seems like the type who will hunt us down around the ship." "True," Naomi laughed. "So, see you at 2? See you at 2. When he walked away, Naomi leaned against the wall and let out the air she didn't know she was holding. What was happening? She wasn't the type to get silly over a man. Not anymore. Not after Brandon and all that emotional manipulation. But there was something about Derek that was different. He didn't invade her space, didn't ask invasive questions, didn't try to impress. He was just present, attentive, as if he really saw her. "Girl, you're floating." Martha appeared with an orange juice in hand and a mischievous smile on her face. "That Derek guy is messing with you, isn't he?" "Mom, stop." "I won't stop. You deserve to be happy, Naomi. And that man looks at you like you're the only person on the ship. You're exaggerating. Mothers know things, sweetie. Mothers feel." At 2 o'clock sharp, Naomi was on deck wearing a light dress and low sandals, hoping not to make a fool of herself again. Derek arrived a few minutes later, wearing a white linen shirt that made him look like he'd stepped out of a cologne commercial. "Ready for disaster?" he asked. "Born ready." Marco put on a real show. There were at least 30 people on deck, mostly animated couples and some Canadian ladies who seemed to take dancing very seriously. Latin music started playing, sensual and rhythmic, and Marco demonstrated the basic steps with a skill that bordered on the impossible. "Now with partners," he announced. Derek extended his hand to Naomi with an exaggerated bow that drew a laugh from her. "Milady, what a gentleman!" She placed her hand in his and felt an electric shock travel up her arm. It wasn't imagination. From the way his eyes widened slightly, he felt it too. They tried to follow the steps. Naomi stepped on his foot twice. Derek missed the timing 3 times. Marco shouted instructions that seemed to be in code. "No, no, Carino. It's 1, 2, 3, not 1, 3, 2. "I'm trying," Naomi shouted back, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "You dance worse than me," Derek murmured near her ear, and the proximity made Naomi's skin tingle. "Competition for who dances worse? I win easily." "I bet you don't." They continued, stumbling and laughing, until something strange happened. Maybe it was the music, or the sun on their faces, or the ship's sway, but suddenly the steps started making sense. Their bodies fit together, the rhythm caught them, and, for 30 magical seconds, they danced for real. Derek led firmly, but without forcing. Naomi let herself go, trusting, and when he spun her and pulled her back, their faces were inches apart, his grey eyes fixed on hers, and the world around them disappeared. "You're full of surprises," he said quietly. "You too." The music stopped. Applause exploded. Marco shouted something about young love, but Naomi and Derek stood still for 1 more second, breathing together, trying to process what had just happened. "I need water." Naomi pulled away, suddenly shy. "I'll get it," Derek offered. While he went to the bar, Martha approached with that gleam in her eyes that meant trouble. "My daughter, if you don't grab that man, I'll do it myself." "Mom, I'm serious. Look at the way he looks at you. He looks like a lovesick puppy. We just met yesterday. So what? Your father won me over in 2 hours. When it's right, it's right." Naomi was about to respond when a woman approached. Tall, thin, with impeccable blonde hair and a dress that probably cost 3 months of Naomi's salary. She carried her phone like it was an extension of her arm and had that air of someone always performing for an invisible camera. "Hi," the woman said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're the girl who was dancing with Derek, right?" "I am, Naomi. Madison Pierce." She extended her hand with nails too perfect to be real. "Social media influencer. 300,000 followers. I'm documenting the entire cruise." "Oh, cool." Naomi shook her hand, uncomfortable. "Yeah, right." Madison looked Naomi up and down, a look that was pure evaluation. "So you and Derek are together?" "We just met." Madison tilted her head, and there was something calculating in that gesture. "Interesting. Because I heard he's more than he appears, you know? Like much more." Before Naomi could ask what that meant, Derek returned with 2 bottles of water. Madison immediately changed posture, tossing her hair back and smiling in a different way. "Derek, what a coincidence! I was getting to know your friend." "Naomi," he said, and the tone was polite but cold. "Her name is Naomi." "Of course, Naomi." Madison laughed, but the sound was artificial. "Well, I'll leave you two alone, but later we'll talk more. Okay, Derek? I have an interesting proposal for you." When she walked away, Naomi felt a knot in her stomach. Who is she? Someone who likes to be seen. Derek handed the water to Naomi. "Don't mind her." But Naomi was already minding, because there was something in the way Madison looked at her, as if she were a competitor, a threat. And worse, there was something in the way Derek tensed when she appeared. "Derek," Naomi said slowly, "who are you really?" He stared at her for a long moment. He seemed to be waging an internal war, deciding how much to reveal. "Someone trying to figure that out too," he finally replied. And before Naomi could insist, the ship's loudspeakers crackled. "Attention passengers, this is Captain James Mitchell. As a precaution, we request that everyone return to their cabins and remain there until further notice. I repeat, return to your cabins immediately." The tone was calm, but there was something urgent underneath. The deck went into confusion. People started murmuring, worried. Derek immediately changed. The relaxed posture disappeared, replaced by something sharp, alert. He looked at the horizon, narrowing his eyes. "What's wrong?" Naomi asked. "I don't know," he lied, and she noticed. "But let's go to your cabin. Now." "Derek." "Now, Naomi." The tone wasn't rude, but it was final. It was the voice of someone used to giving orders in dangerous situations. And it was at that moment, seeing the transformation in him, that Naomi realized Derek Vaughan kept secrets much bigger than she imagined, and the Ocean Aurora was about to become much more than a romantic cruise. 3 small boats appeared on the horizon like dark spots against the cobalt blue of the Caribbean Sea. Naomi saw them from the cabin window, and her first thought was that they were fishermen. But the way Derek froze beside her, with locked jaw and eyes calculating distances, said they weren't. "What's happening?" Naomi whispered, as if the boats could hear her. "I need you and your mother to stay here," Derek said, and there was something different in his voice, something military, sharp. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or the official crew." "Derek, you're scaring me." He turned to her, and for the first time, Naomi saw fear in those grey eyes. Not fear for himself, but for her. "I'll be back," he promised, "but I need to go. Trust me." And he left, leaving Naomi with her heart pounding and Martha clutching her rosary. In the corridors of the Ocean Aurora, Derek moved with the precision of someone who had memorized every inch of the ship. He wasn't just Derek Vaughan, security consultant. He was Captain Derek Vaughan, former military intelligence officer, veteran of 5 missions in conflict zones, specialist in maritime counterterrorism. And now, here he was, using the cover of Passenger to assess the ship's vulnerabilities at the request of a European private security fund. Ironic that the assessment had become real. He reached the command bridge without being stopped. Captain James Mitchell, a 60-year-old Brit with tired eyes and a firm voice, recognized him immediately. "Captain Vaughan." James wasted no time with formalities. 3 unidentified vessels approaching at 20 knots, not responding to radio. Aggressive approach pattern. "Pirates," Derek stated, didn't ask. "Militiamen recruiting former fishermen affected by the sanctions," James confirmed. British intelligence alerted us to activity in the region, but we didn't expect. They saw the ocean aurora on social media. Derek interrupted, thinking fast. Luxury cruise, wealthy passengers, excessive publicity, easy target. Or so they thought. James smiled without humor. We have you? Derek didn't smile back. He was calculating. 3 boats, probably 15 to 20 men, armed, desperate, unpredictable. The Ocean Aurora had security, but it was trained for drunks and petty thefts, not for combat. Total lockdown protocol, Derek ordered, and James didn't question. Passengers in cabins or the main lounge, no balconies, close the hatches of the lower decks. And if they try to board, they won't succeed, Derek said with a confidence he didn't fully feel. But if they do, I'll handle it. He returned through the corridors, now with military purpose. He stopped at the ship's emergency arsenal, where he found Marco Santos, the eternal entertainer, now pale and serious. Derek, what the hell is happening? Security situation, Derek replied while checking equipment. I need you to keep passengers calm in the lounge, no panic. I'm an entertainer, not a crisis psychologist. You're Brazilian, improvise. Marco laughed nervously but nodded. There was something brave about that funny man, Derek realized. The boats approached. Derek went up to the restricted deck with 3 trained crew members and limited arsenal. It wasn't ideal, but it was what he had. He positioned the men strategically, instructed them on when to shoot and when not to shoot, explained that the priority was to intimidate, not kill. They want money and attention, Derek said, not dead heroes. The first boat tried to grab onto the hull. Derek activated the high-pressure hoses, the standard anti-piracy protocol. Water gushed with enough force to destabilize the vessel. Angry shouts in Spanish echoed. Shots were fired into the air, more threat than attack. Derek didn't return fire. Not yet. The second boat tried the other side. Same tactic, same response. But the third boat was smarter. While the other 2 distracted, it approached from the stern, where surveillance was lower. And they succeeded. 3 men climbed using hooks and ropes, armed with assault rifles and knives. Derek saw them too late. One of them managed to enter the corridor of Deck C, exactly where the passenger cabins were, exactly where Naomi was. Derek ran. His feet hammered the deck's metal while his heart hammered his chest. He couldn't fail. Not again. Not like he failed Lieutenant Marcus 3 years ago, when an ambush in Somali waters took his best friend. He couldn't let another person die because of his hesitation. He turned the corner and saw. One of the invaders was in the corridor, shouting in Spanish and broken English, ordering people out of the cabins. Some doors opened. Terrified passengers appeared. A child cried. And then Derek saw Naomi. She was standing at the cabin door with Martha behind her, eyes wide with terror, but trying to look brave. The man pointed the gun at her. You! Out! Now! Something broke inside Derek. He moved with trained speed, silent, lethal. He disarmed the man in 3 precise movements, immobilized him against the wall, and knocked him out with a controlled blow. All in less than 5 seconds. Naomi gasped. The other passengers froze. Derek breathed heavily, still holding the invader's weapon, still in combat mode. And then he looked at Naomi. "Are you okay?" he asked, and his voice came out hoarse. She nodded, mute with shock. "Stay here," he ordered gently. "I'll be back." The other 2 invaders were captured by the crew. Captain James negotiated over the radio with the remaining boats, which retreated upon realizing the Ocean Aurora wasn't an easy target. 20 minutes later, Coast Guard vessels arrived, responding to the distress call. The crisis was over, but the consequences were just beginning. In the main lounge, passengers hugged and cried. Marco tried to calm everyone with weak jokes and sincere hugs. Captain James made announcements about safety and return to route. Naomi looked for Derek. She found him on the outer deck, alone, looking at the sea as if searching for answers in the waves. "Derek," she approached slowly. He didn't turn. "You lied to me," Naomi said, and there was no anger in her voice, just tired realization. "I never lied." "Omitted then. You're not just a security consultant." Derek finally faced her. And Naomi saw things in those eyes that scared and fascinated her at the same time. She saw ghosts, she saw pain, she saw a man carrying a weight she didn't understand. "I was military," he said simply. "Intelligence, special operations, spent 10 years in places you don't want to be, saw things I can't forget, and when I left, I thought I could be normal again, thought I could board a cruise and just be Derek." And who is Derek? "Still trying to figure that out," he smiled without joy. "But when I saw that man pointing the gun at you, Naomi, I knew who I'll always be. Someone who protects. Someone who can't let people get hurt." Naomi took a step forward. Her heart was still beating fast, but not from fear, from something different, something intense and scary and wonderful. "You saved me. It was my job." "No." She touched his arm, and he shuddered at the contact. "It wasn't a job. It was a choice. You chose to protect me." Derek looked at her hand on his arm, small, delicate, but firm, like her, and he realized he was lost, completely lost to this woman who spilled coffee, tripped over carts, and now stared at him as if she could see through all his armor. "Naomi, Miss Spencer!" The shrill voice cut the moment. Madison Pierce approached with phone in hand, and that venomous smile. "What a scare, right? But how lucky you have the ship's hero taking care of you personally." Naomi pulled away from Derek, suddenly aware of how this looked. "It wasn't like that." "Of course it was." Madison was already recording, aiming her phone at them both. "Guys, look at this. The girl who won the cruise in a sweepstakes is already glued to the Ocean Aurora's most mysterious passenger. What perfect timing, right?" "Madison, stop that," Derek said, and there was steel in his voice. "Why?" She blinked innocently. "I'm just documenting the cruise romance. My followers will love it. The modern Cinderella and the charming prince that nobody knows who he really is." Naomi felt her stomach churn. This wasn't documentation. It was poison wrapped in gift paper. "You don't know anything about me," Naomi said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I know you work at a cosmetics company. I know you live in a rented apartment. I know you broke off an engagement 6 months ago." Madison tilted her head, cruel. "And I know you're here now, on an expensive cruise, suddenly close to a man who clearly has much more money than he appears. Are you insinuating that I'm not insinuating anything, darling, just observing patterns." Derek took a step forward, positioning himself between the two. "Enough. Delete that video. Now." "Or what?" Madison challenged. "What are you going to do exactly? By the way, who are you really, Derek? Because nobody disarms a pirate with that ease. Nobody moves like that. I bet there's a very interesting story behind those mysterious eyes." And with that, she walked away, leaving a heavy silence. Naomi felt tears burn her eyes, not because of Madison, but because of the truth in her words, because Naomi knew how this looked. The poor girl who won a cruise and was already clinging to the first rich man who appeared. It was exactly what Brandon always said, that she was a gold digger, that she only wanted to climb in life at others' expense. "Naomi," Derek touched her shoulder. "No." She pulled away. "She's right. I don't belong here. I don't belong to this world." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Look around, Derek." Naomi opened her arms, showing the ship's luxury. "This costs more than I make in a year. The people here wear watches that cost more than my car. And me, I won this in a sweepstakes. I'm an intruder, and now they'll think that I'm using you. I don't think that, but others will. And worse." She swallowed hard. "I don't even know who you really are. You have secrets, Derek, big ones. And I can't go through this again. I can't be with someone who hides who they really are." Derek was silent for a long moment. Naomi saw the internal struggle in his eyes, the battle between what he wanted to say and what he could say. "You're right," he finally said, and the words were like knives. "I have secrets, and maybe it's better this way. Better you stay away before you get hurt." Naomi felt her heart shatter. It wasn't what she wanted to hear. She wanted him to fight, to insist, to show she was worth the risk, but he didn't do that, and maybe that said everything. "Good night, Derek," she murmured, and returned to the cabin with eyes full of tears she refused to shed in front of him. Inside the cabin, Martha waited with hot chocolate and hugs. "What happened, my daughter?" Naomi told everything. Madison's words, the conversation with Derek, the horrible feeling of not belonging. "That Derek is an idiot," Martha declared. "If he doesn't see what's in front of him, it's his problem." "Mom, he's right. We're from different worlds." "Nonsense. The heart has no zip code, Naomi, no bank account. Your father was a bus driver and I was a teacher. Nobody gave anything for us, and you know what we did? We loved anyway. We built a life anyway. But Dad didn't have secrets. Everyone has secrets, sweetie. The question is whether the person is willing to share them with you. And that Derek, I saw the way he looks at you. It's not a fake look. It's the look of a man scared of feeling too much." Naomi wanted to believe, but the pain was still too fresh. That night, the Ocean Aurora continued its journey under a starry sky. But in the corridors, the looks began. Whispers, pointing. Madison had done her job well. The video already had 10,000 views, and the comments were cruel. "This one's smart, already secured the big fish. Cruise Gold Digger version 2025. Poor guy fell for the Cinderella tale." Naomi saw the comments because she couldn't resist, and each word was a stab. Meanwhile, Derek was in his suite, a suite that cost $15,000 a night and that he paid without blinking, staring at his phone. There was a message from his father, Victor Vaughn, patriarch of the tourism empire. "Saw the news. Situation controlled. Well done, but there's a girl on social media. Be careful with approaches during evaluation. You know how they are." Derek threw the phone on the couch. His father thought Naomi was an opportunist. Madison had painted that picture, and the worst part, Derek couldn't reveal who he really was without jeopardizing the entire evaluation mission, without exposing his family, without turning Naomi into a target. But he also couldn't let her go. Not when for the first time in years he felt alive. Not when those brown eyes made him want to be more than just the heir or the soldier, made him want to be simply him. He picked up the phone again and called the only friend he had on that ship. "Hello?" Marco answered with his characteristic energy. "I need your help," Derek said. "Madonna. The serious gentleman finally admits he needs a Brazilian to solve heart problems. Marco, tell me, amico, I'm listening." And Derek told everything. Who he was, why he was there, what he felt for Naomi, the obstacles. When he finished, there was silence on the other side. "Marco, you're the heir to a multi-million-dollar empire, and you're in love with a girl who works with cosmetics and thinks she won a free cruise." "Yes. And you think that's a problem?" "Everyone thinks she's using me." "Everyone is an idiot," Marco declared. "I saw that girl. I saw the way she looks at her mother, how she treats the waiters, how she blushes when you're around. That's not the posture of a fortune hunter, amico. That's the posture of a woman in love and terrified." Derek felt something loosen in his chest. "What do I do?" "You fight, idiot. You didn't face pirates to give up on a woman because of internet gossip." Derek laughed. For the first time in days, he laughed for real. "Thank you, Marco. You're welcome. And Derek, stop being a coward. That girl deserves the truth." When he hung up, Derek knew what he needed to do. But first he needed a night to plan. Because revealing who he was meant changing everything, and he needed to make sure Naomi would be safe, protected, prepared. But fate had other plans, because while Derek planned, one of the captured pirates, Carlos, the youngest and most desperate, was in the ship's containment cell plotting an escape. He had a brother among those who escaped. He had a promise of rescue, and he had a burning desire for revenge against the grey-eyed man who humiliated him. And Carlos had seen that man with the curly-haired girl, the one who was crying in the corridors now, the one who would be perfect as a hostage. 3 days passed, like an open wound. Naomi saw Derek from afar, at breakfast, in the corridors, on deck. But they didn't talk. The looks were long and loaded with unspoken things, but neither took the first step. Martha was getting impatient. "Are you two adults or teenagers?" she complained. while Naomi pretended to read a book by the pool. "Go there and talk to him." "And say what, Mom? Hi, you who has secrets and let the crazy woman on the ship call me a gold digger without doing anything?" "Exactly that. Get it out." Naomi sighed. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe she was being a coward too. But every time she thought about approaching Derek, she remembered the cruel comments, the judgmental looks, the horrible feeling of not being good enough. Brandon had planted that in her. Years of hearing she was mediocre, that she should be grateful someone like him wanted someone like her, and even free from him, the poisonous seeds kept growing. "I'm going for a walk," Naomi announced, getting up. "Alone again? Sweetie, you need to stop running away." "I'm not running away, I'm processing." She walked through the quiet corridors. It was late at night, almost midnight, and most passengers were at the shows or bars. Naomi liked that silence, the feeling of being invisible for a few moments, but then she heard footsteps behind her. Fast, urgent. She turned and saw Carlos, the pirate Derek had captured. But now he was free, with wild eyes and a knife in his hand. "You," he said in broken English, "come with me." Silence. Naomi opened her mouth to scream, but he pulled her brutally, pressing the blade against her throat. Silence or die now. Terror paralyzed Naomi. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. Carlos dragged her through service corridors, away from cameras, away from people. They climbed metal stairs, passed through restricted areas, until they reached an abandoned cargo deck. There, he threw her against a wall. "You tell where he is." Carlos pointed the knife. "The gray-eyed man. He humiliated me. Now I humiliate him." Naomi breathed in sobs, but forced her mind to work. She needed to buy time. She needed to be smart. I don't know where he is," she lied. "We're not close. He just helped me during the attack." "Lie!" Carlos yelled. "I saw you. You together. He likes you." "You're wrong. Ask anyone on the ship. People think I'm using him. We barely talk." Carlos hesitated. There was distorted logic in his eyes, the logic of a desperate man who lost everything. "So he won't come save you?" "No," Naomi lied again, and the words hurt more than they should. "I'm nothing to him." Meanwhile, on the other side of the ship, Derek was with Captain James on the command bridge when the alarm sounded. "Containment escape," James announced, pale. "Carlos attacked 2 guards and fled." Derek felt his blood freeze. "Where's Naomi?" "What do you mean?" "Naomi Spencer. Where is she?" James checked the records. "Last location, Corridor B, Deck 3, 20 minutes ago. But she hasn't returned to the cabin." Derek was already running before James finished the sentence. His military training kicked in. He memorized the last position, calculated possible routes, thought like a desperate fugitive would think. Isolated areas, no cameras, places where hostages could be hidden. The cargo deck. He ran like he'd never run before. He climbed stairs 3 at a time, ignored crew protests, focused on only one thing: Naomi. When he reached the cargo deck, the scene made him stop. Carlos was holding Naomi by the throat, the knife gleaming under the dim light. She was pale, trembling, but still standing, still fighting. "Let her go," Derek said, and his voice was too calm, too controlled, the voice he used before killing. "The hero?" Carlos laughed without humor. "You came." "She said you wouldn't come, but I knew. I said what he wanted to hear," Naomi shouted, and there was courage in her voice, even with fear. "Because I'm not an idiot." "Naomi, look at me." Derek spoke low, but she heard. Their eyes met, and he tried to transmit everything he hadn't been able to say in the last few days. "Everything will be okay. I promise." "You promise nothing." Carlos pressed the knife harder. A drop of blood ran down Naomi's neck. Derek saw red. "Last chance," he said. "Let her go, and I guarantee you leave this ship alive. You're not in a position to negotiate." "I am." Derek took a step forward. Because I'm Captain Derek Vaughn, former military intelligence, veteran of dozens of rescue operations. I've disarmed more dangerous men than you using just my hands. I've saved hostages in worse situations. And here's the difference between you and me. You're desperate. I'm trained. Carlos hesitated. For a second, just one, his concentration faltered. It was enough. Derek moved with brutal speed. He closed the distance in 2 seconds, dodged the knife with an arm movement, spun his body and disarmed Carlos with a precise blow to the wrist. The knife flew. Naomi broke free, and Derek immobilized the pirate on the floor with a knee on his back. Security arrived seconds later, taking Carlos under reinforced custody. Derek stayed there, breathing heavily, with adrenaline still burning in his veins. And then he saw Naomi, leaning against the wall, trembling violently. He went to her and, without asking permission, pulled her into a hug. Naomi collapsed. She cried like she hadn't cried since the day she broke up with Brandon. She cried the fear, the terror, the emotional exhaustion of the last few days. And Derek held her, firm and safe, murmuring things in Italian that she didn't understand, but that calmed her anyway. "You're okay," he repeated. "You're safe. I'm here." "You came," Naomi sobbed against his chest. "Even after everything, you came." "I would always come." Derek pulled her face away to look into her eyes. "Naomi, I would always come, because you're not anything that woman said. You are everything. But I don't know who you really are." "Then let me tell you," he smiled, tired but sincere. "My full name is Derek Victor Vaughn. I'm 33 years old. I spent 10 years in military service on missions I can't detail. My father is Victor Vaughn, owner of Vaughn International Group, resorts, cruises, including this one. I'm the heir to an empire I didn't build and don't know if I deserve. I carry scars from wars nobody sees. And for the first time in years, I met someone who makes me want to be more than just the soldier or the heir. Someone who makes me want to be simply Derek." Naomi stared at him, processing each word. "You're the owner of the cruise?" "My father is. I was here incognito evaluating security. Ironic, considering what happened. That's why you didn't tell me before." "Yes, and because—" he hesitated. "Because every time someone finds out who I am, everything changes. People change. They look at me differently. They want something from me. And when I met you, spilling coffee and being completely authentic, I just wanted to be Derek. I just wanted someone to see me without the last name, without the money, without the weight. I saw you." Naomi touched his face. "I saw you, Derek, whoever you are. I saw the man who danced badly with me and laughed at himself. I saw the man who saved my mother without thinking twice. I saw the man who has nightmares but is still kind. How do you know about the nightmares? Because I have them too." She smiled wetly. "Brandon, my ex, he made me believe I wasn't good enough for anything, that any man who wanted me was doing charity. That's why when Madison said those things, it hurt so much, because part of me believed it was true." Derek held her face with both hands. "Listen carefully, Naomi Spencer. You are more than enough. You're extraordinary. And any man who doesn't see that is a complete idiot, including me for the last 3 days. You weren't an idiot. You were scared." "I was terrified," he corrected, "because I fell in love with you in 3 days. And that doesn't make any sense, but it's true." Naomi's heart stopped and restarted. "You, what?" "I fell in love with you," Derek repeated, and there was raw vulnerability in his eyes. "With the woman who treats waiters with kindness. With the daughter who brought her mother to see the sea. With the survivor who still believes in goodness despite everything. I fell in love, Naomi, and that terrifies me and makes me feel more alive than any mission ever did." Naomi couldn't respond with words, so she responded with actions. She pulled him by the shirt collar and kissed him. It was a desperate, hungry kiss, full of days of unresolved tension. Derek pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, pouring 3 days of frustration into each touch, his hands in her hair, her hands on his chest, trying to be closer, always closer. When they separated, both were breathless. Wow, Naomi murmured. Yes, Derek agreed. So, what happens now? Now, he intertwined his fingers with hers. I take you to the ship's hospital, where a doctor will check if you're okay. Then I talk to my father and finish this official evaluation. And then, if you accept, I'd like to spend the rest of this cruise getting to know the real woman behind the brown eyes that stole my peace. That sounds perfect, Naomi smiled. But there's one condition. What? Stop protecting me from everything. I'm not a princess in a tower. I'm a survivor. And if we're going to do this, we do it as partners. No more secrets. Derek looked at her with something very much like adoration. Partners, he promised. But I can't promise not to protect you. It's part of who I am. Then I'll protect you back, Naomi challenged. Deal? Deal. They left the cargo deck holding hands. And when they passed through the main lounge, where Madison was sitting with her phone, Derek didn't let go of Naomi's hand. On the contrary, he pulled her closer and kissed her forehead in front of everyone. The message was clear. She's mine, and I'm hers. And anyone who has a problem with that can go to hell. Madison paled. Passengers whispered. But Martha, who was drinking wine with the Canadian ladies, raised her glass and shouted, "Finally! Thank God! I thought I'd have to lock you two in a room." The lounge exploded in laughter, and for the first time in days, Naomi and Derek laughed together. The ship's hospital was small, but equipped. The doctor, an older gentleman of Indian origin with gentle hands, checked the cut on Naomi's neck and declared it was superficial. "It'll leave a small mark for a few days, but nothing permanent," he said while applying a special band-aid. "You were lucky, Miss Spencer." "I was." Naomi looked at Derek, who wouldn't leave her side. "Very lucky." Martha arrived like a hurricane, hugging her daughter with enough force to break ribs. "My daughter! When I heard what happened, I almost had a heart attack." "I'm fine, Mom. Thanks to Derek." Martha turned to Derek and, to everyone's surprise, hugged him too. "Thank you for saving my girl. Thank you for not giving up on her." Derek, clearly uncomfortable with public displays of affection, turned red. "I would never give up on her, Martha." "Good, because now you're officially part of the family. And in our family, we don't let go. Ready?" "I think so." "Great answer." Martha patted his shoulder. "Now you two have a lot to talk about. I'll leave you alone. But Derek?" "Yes, Ma'am? If you hurt my daughter, I'll hunt you down. And I have friends in low places, understood?" "Understood perfectly." When Martha left, Naomi laughed. "She's serious, you know." "I know. And I hope she keeps that promise, because if I'm idiot enough to hurt you, I deserve to be hunted." They returned to the outer deck, where the sea was calm under a sky full of stars. The full moon painted a silver path over the waves, and the air had that smell of salt and freedom that Naomi loved so much. "Tell me more about you," Naomi asked, leaning on the railing with Derek beside her. "The real version. No filters." Derek took a deep breath. "I joined the armed forces at 20. I was rebellious, wanted to prove something to my father. Wanted to be more than just the air. The military gave me purpose, structure, mission. I was assigned to intelligence because I had a facility with languages and strategic analysis. I spent years in places like Somalia, the Middle East, conflict zones where—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "Where I saw things no one should see." Naomi waited, giving him space. "I lost a friend, Lieutenant Marcus Silva. We were 28. We were on a rescue operation of a ship hijacked by Somali pirates. I read the signs wrong. I thought a vessel was empty. It wasn't. Marcus entered first and—" His voice failed. "He died instantly. And I carried his body for miles until I could get exfiltration. Derek." Naomi touched his hand. "After that, every mission became about not failing again, about saving everyone, protecting everyone, never losing anyone again. It became an obsession, and it consumed me. When I finally left the service 6 months ago, I didn't know who I was anymore without the uniform. And now, he looked at her, I'm starting to find out. Because you make me want to be more than just the soldier on alert. You make me want to relax, trust, live." Naomi felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you for trusting me with this." "Your turn," Derek gently provoked. "Tell me about Brandon." Naomi grimaced. He was controlling. At first he seemed protective. Don't wear that outfit, it'll drive guys crazy. You don't need to go out with your friends, you have me. Why do you want that better job? Am I not enough? Little by little it became a prison. He monitored my phone, my email, my social media. He said it was because he loved me too much. Derek clenched his fists, but didn't interrupt. It took 3 years for me to realize that love doesn't control. Love liberates. And when I broke up, he said I was ungrateful, that no one else would want me, that I was mediocre and he was doing me a favor. He was wrong, Derek said with an intensity that made her shiver. In every word, you're extraordinary, Naomi, and any man who doesn't see that is blind and an idiot. It's funny. Naomi smiled wetly. You say that and I believe it, even knowing you for less than a week, but it makes sense in a way it never did with Brandon in 3 years. Because this is real. Derek turned to her completely. What I feel for you is real, scary, intense, too fast, but real. I feel the same, Naomi admitted, and that terrifies me. Because what if it's just the adrenaline? What if it's just the crazy context of this cruise? Then we test it, Derek proposed. Back on land, real life, no pirates or ship luxury, just you and me, finding out if this works in the ordinary world. You'd do that? The multi-millionaire heir going out with the marketing analyst who lives in a rental? Naomi, he held her face. I don't want the marketing analyst or the rental tenant. I want the woman who spills coffee and laughs at herself, the daughter who brought her mother to see the sea, the survivor who faces pirates and still believes in love. I want you in any context, in any place. And he kissed her. Different from the desperate kiss hours ago, this one was slow, deep, full of unspoken promises. Naomi melted into him, feeling every tense muscle of Derek relax, while his hands slid down her waist. When they separated, both were smiling like silly teenagers. So is this it? Naomi asked. We're together. If you'll accept dating a traumatized ex-military man with overprotective tendencies and a complicated last name, yes. And will you accept dating a clumsy woman with an intrusive mother and zero experience with jet sets? I accept, Derek laughed, especially the intrusive mother part. She's great. You say that now. Wait until she starts planning the wedding. Derek got serious for a moment. What if I don't want to wait that long to get married? Naomi, what? Relax, he laughed. I'm not proposing yet. But Naomi, I'm 33 years old. I've seen enough death and destruction to know life is short. And when you know, you know. I know I want you in my life for a long time, permanently, if you'll let me. Naomi's heart beat so hard she was sure he could hear it. Derek, we've known each other for a week, I know, and I'm not asking for decisions now. I'm just being honest about my intentions. I don't want to play games. I don't want to string you along. I want something real, built, lasting. If you want that too, we can go slow, but with direction. Naomi looked into those grey eyes, so sincere it hurt. I want it, she whispered. I want this. I want you. And yes, it scares me, but for the first time, fear doesn't paralyze me. It makes me want to be brave. Then let's be brave together. They stayed there, embraced under the stars, while the Ocean Aurora sailed toward the Bahamas, and for the first time since they boarded the ship, both felt complete. The next morning, Derek made a call. Dad, I need to tell you something. Victor Vaughn, at 65, was a man of few words and many expectations. When Derek told him about Naomi, there was a long silence. The security report? His father finally asked. It's ready. I'll send it today. But about Naomi. Derek, you're an adult. Your personal choices are yours. But understand, the voice got harder, that the media will investigate. Your girlfriend will be exposed. They'll look for dirt, make up stories. Is she prepared for that? I'll prepare her, and I'll protect her. You can't protect someone from the press, son. You can only stand by them while you face it together. Then that's what I'll do. Another silence. Then, surprisingly, bring her to dinner when you return. I want to meet the woman who managed to make my son smile again. Derek hung up with a silly smile on his face. Meanwhile, Naomi faced her own battle. She was at breakfast with Martha when Madison approached, but this time without phone, without pose. She seemed smaller, tired. "Naomi, can I talk to you?" Naomi exchanged looks with her mother, who nodded. "Sure." They went to the side deck. Madison was silent for a moment before speaking. "I owe you an apology, a huge apology." Naomi crossed her arms, waiting. "I was a complete cow to you," Madison continued. "I spread rumors, exposed you, judged you without knowing you. And yesterday, when I heard you were taken hostage, her voice failed. I realized I could have contributed to something terrible. If you had died, part would have been my fault." "Madison, let me finish." Madison wiped her eyes. "The truth is, I was jealous. You have something real with Derek, and I spend my whole life creating fake things for the internet. Staged romances, bought friendships, filtered happiness. When I saw you two, I saw something genuine. And instead of admiring it, I destroyed it, because that's what I do. I destroy beautiful things because I can't have them." Naomi breathed deeply. Part of her wanted to scream, unload the anger and pain. But another part, the part that survived Brandon, understood. "You hurt me a lot," Naomi said honestly. "Those comments, that video, they touched insecurities I already had, made everything seem dirty, when in reality it was the purest thing I've felt in years. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm genuinely sorry. I deleted the video. I posted a retraction. It doesn't undo the damage, but it's the minimum." Naomi studied her face. She saw sincerity there, and tiredness, the kind of tiredness that comes from living a lie for too long. "I accept your apology," Naomi said finally. "Doesn't mean we trust each other now, but I accept." Madison nodded, clearly relieved. "Thank you. And Naomi, he looks at you like you're the sun. Don't let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise." And with that, Madison walked away. Martha appeared beside her daughter. "You're a better person than me." "I would have thrown juice on her," Naomi laughed. "I thought about it, but anger only poisons us, Mom. She'll have to live with her conscience. I'll live with my happiness. That's my daughter." Martha hugged her proudly. The last days of the cruise were magical. Derek took Naomi to a private dinner on the upper deck with candles and live violin. She wore a dress Martha insisted on buying at the ship's store, and when Derek saw her, he was speechless for a full minute. "You look stunning," he finally managed to say. "You don't look bad yourself," Naomi teased, but was blushing. They dined, talked for hours, discovering little things about each other. That Derek had been afraid of clowns since childhood. That Naomi knew all the lines from Pride and Prejudice by heart. That he played piano when stressed. That she wrote bad poetry when happy. "I want to read those poems," Derek said. "Never. They're horrible. Then I'll have to steal your notebook." "Try." He tried. She ran. He caught her, spinning her while both laughed like children. When they finally stopped, breathless, he kissed her with all the tenderness in the world. "I love you," Derek said. "I know it's fast. I know it's intense. But it's true. I love you, Naomi Spencer." Naomi felt tears in her eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. "I love you, and it terrifies me, and makes me immensely happy at the same time. Welcome to the club." Marco, of course, didn't leave the couple alone. He organized a farewell dance rehearsal that was blatantly an excuse to put Naomi and Derek on stage together. He played music that was too romantic, made comments that were too hilarious, and at the end hugged them both as if they were his children. "You give me hope in love," he declared dramatically. "When you get married, I want to sing, even though I sing badly." "Deal," Derek promised, laughing. On the last night before docking in the Bahamas, Naomi and Derek stayed on deck until dawn. They talked about the future, about how she would meet his father, about how he would meet her friends, about challenges, expectations, fears. "It won't be easy," Derek said honestly. "My world is complicated, full of obligations, expectations, judgmental looks." "I know," Naomi intertwined her fingers with his. "But I don't want easy. I want real. And you're the most real thing that's ever happened to me." "You too," he kissed her hand. "My anchor in troubled seas." Your partner in calm and troubled seas, she corrected. Partner, he agreed. Forever, if you'll let me. Forever, Naomi promised. And when the sun rose, painting the sky pink and gold, they were together, ready for whatever came. Because true love isn't about not being afraid. It's about facing fear together. It's about choosing every day to be by someone's side. It's about building, growing, fighting. And Naomi and Derek were ready to fight. Together. Epilogue. 6 months later. Naomi adjusted her navy blue dress for the 10th time, nervous. The restaurant in Miami was the kind that had more silverware than she knew how to use, and waiters who looked like silent judges. Relax, Derek held her hand under the table. He already loves you. You don't know that. Yes, I do. I talked to him yesterday. He said, and I quote, "Finally you found someone who puts you in your place," which, coming from him, is practically an effusive compliment. Naomi laughed nervously. Victor Vaughn arrived 5 minutes later, punctual as always. He was an older version of Derek, same grey eyes, same upright posture, but with greying hair and an air of someone who carried empires on his shoulders. Naomi, he extended his hand, a pleasure to finally meet you in person. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Vaughn. Victor, please, he corrected, and there was warmth in his voice. Let's dispense with formalities. Dinner started tense, but gradually Naomi relaxed. Victor wasn't the ogre she'd imagined. He was intelligent, observant, asked genuine questions about her work, her family, her dreams, and when she told him about Martha and how her mother had reacted to finding out about Derek, Victor laughed, a deep, rare sound that made Derek look surprised. She said, "If you hurt Naomi, she'd hunt you down," Victor repeated, still laughing. "I like that woman. She's got grit." "She does," Naomi smiled. "And she keeps promises. The best ones always do." Victor got serious. "Naomi, I'll be direct. My son spent 10 years destroying himself in the name of duty. He came back a ghost, and in 6 months with you, I've seen him laugh more than in 6 years, so thank you." Naomi felt tears threaten. "I didn't do anything special." "You did," Victor insisted. "You loved him, without asking for anything in return, without caring about the last name or the money. You loved the man. And that, my dear, is extremely rare in the world we live in." Derek squeezed Naomi's hand under the table. After dinner, Victor made a surprise announcement. The Ocean Aurora 2 is being launched next month, humanitarian route through the Mediterranean, bringing aid to fishing communities. Derek will oversee the project. He looked at Naomi. "And we'd like you to be the communication coordinator, if you accept." Naomi was speechless. But I work with cosmetics, and you're excellent at what you do. We checked. Creative, empathetic, efficient." Victor smiled. "Exactly what we need to tell human stories. Think about it." Outside the restaurant, Naomi was still in shock. "Is he serious?" "Completely." Derek pulled her into a hug. "But no pressure. If you don't want to, that's fine. You don't need to work for my family to be with me." "I know." Naomi rested her head on his chest. "But it's an incredible opportunity, and doing something that matters. I've always wanted that." "Then think about it carefully. No rush." 2 weeks later, Naomi accepted, and 3 months after that, she was on the deck of the Ocean Aurora 2 beside Derek, Martha, and Marco, watching the ship set sail on its inaugural journey. The route would include Greece, Italy, Spain, and Morocco, delivering fishing equipment, medical supplies, and hope to communities devastated by regional conflicts. "This is incredible," Naomi murmured, looking at the sea. "You're incredible," Derek corrected. "This was your idea. The route, the social project, everything." "Our idea," Naomi corrected him. "Partners, remember?" "Partners," he agreed. Marco approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "A toast!" He raised his own glass. "To the lovebirds who met amidst spilled coffee and pirates. To love that survives troubled seas. And to my future as godfather, because you'll choose me, right?" "Obviously," Derek laughed. "Wait, who said anything about a wedding?" Naomi feigned surprise. Derek got serious. He put down his glass, and, in front of everyone on deck, he knelt down. Naomi stopped breathing. Naomi Rose Spencer. He took a small box from his pocket. You found me when I was lost. You loved me when I thought I didn't deserve it. You made me want to be more than just the soldier or the heir. You made me want to be simply yours. Will you marry me? Naomi looked at him, then at Martha, who was crying, then at Marco, who was filming everything, then at the crew members who were applauding. Yes, she said, her voice choked. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. He placed the ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds blue like the sea, and pulled her into a kiss that drew applause from the entire deck. I love you, Derek whispered against her lips. I love you more, Naomi replied. Impossible. Bet? They laughed, embraced, while the Ocean Aurora 2 sailed toward the horizon. Because that was the truth they learned. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone imperfect and deciding they're worth weathering any storm for. It's choosing every day to dive in together. It's being both anchor and sail. It's being partners in calm and troubled seas. And Naomi and Derek, the marketing analyst and the ex-military man, the dreamer and the protector, the woman who spilled coffee and the man who saved lives, chose exactly that. They chose love. They chose the journey. They chose each other. And they lived. Not happily ever after without problems, because real life doesn't work like that. But they lived together, building each day, facing each challenge, celebrating each victory. They lived a real story, and that, they discovered, was much better than any fairy tale. So, did you enjoy this story? If the answer is yes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and hit that notification bell. This way, you help me continue bringing beautiful and emotional stories like this one to you and to other people who, just like you, love to get lost in a good romance. Your like and subscription make all the difference. See you in the next story.